Stories to laugh, think, and drift away to. Some stories are for laughter, some are for thought, and some are just right for the long evening.
Good stories. Funny ones. Quiet ones.
Catch this.
Voi roitto.
That was how it started, not with anger, not with a plan, not with one of those things grown-ups later pretend had meaning from the beginning. It started with snow, a small hand, a door opening, and one snowball that had no respect at all for the post office. In those days, winter did not stay outside. It came in on boots. It followed children through doors. It melted under chairs. It dripped from mittens onto wooden floors. And if a child had been outside long enough, with red cheeks, cold fingers, and too much life in the body, then anything could happen. Even in a place where things were supposed to be serious, like the post office. The post office had its own smell: paper, ink, old stamps, wet wool, coffee from somewhere behind the counter. There were envelopes stacked neatly, forms that nobody understood, small drawers, pens tied to strings, and people standing there as if the whole world could be kept in order with a rubber stamp. But children know something grown-ups forget. Order is very easy to disturb, especially in winter.
Catch this.
Ulrika did not walk in like a criminal. That would be too much. She walked in like a child, which is worse if you are trying to keep a place serious. She had snow on her sleeves, snow in her hair, snow packed around her mittens, and in one hand, one perfect snowball. Not too big, not too small, just enough to change the day. The postmaster, or whoever stood behind that counter, was doing what postmasters do, looking down, sorting things, being correct. And then came the voice, small, fast, happy. And there it went, across the room, past the stamps, past the envelopes, past all adult expectations. A white little moon flying through the air inside a building where snow had not been invited.
Post office was not ready.
No, it was not. The snowball hit with that soft sound only snow can make, not hard enough to hurt, but clear enough to insult the furniture. For a second, nothing moved. That is the best part of all old stories, the second after it happens, before anyone knows what kind of memory it will become. The post office stood still. The stamps stood still. The grown-up behind the counter stood still. Even the snowball, now broken, seemed surprised to find itself there. And Ulrika? She had already understood the important thing. If you throw a snowball inside the post office, you should not wait for the committee meeting afterwards. You run.
Good strategy.
Yes, very good strategy. Now, some people would say it was just mischief, and maybe it was. But mischief, when it is small enough and not cruel, can be a kind of life entering the room. Old villages needed that. They needed wood, they needed coffee, they needed fish, weather, work, and someone who knew how to fix a door that would not close. But they also needed children who forgot themselves for 1 second. Children who laughed before they thought. Children who saw a serious room and felt, deep in the bones, that it could use a little snow. That is something adults lose, not all at once, slowly, one form at a time, one appointment, one bill, one winter where they stop throwing snow and only start shoveling it. But a child still knows. Snow is not only something to move away, snow is something to throw. Ulrika probably forgot most of that day. Children do. They carry the feeling, not the minutes. But the room remembered, the counter remembered, the people remembered. And years later, someone still says, "Do you remember when that snowball came in?" And everyone smiles before they answer, because they do remember.
Voi roitto.
Yes, voi roitto. That is how some stories stay, not because they were important in the way newspapers think things are important, but because they entered a quiet place, made a small mess, and left laughter where order had been. So if you ever come to an old northern village in winter and you see children outside, red cheeks, wet mittens, eyes full of bad ideas, do not be too quick to stop them. Sometimes the house needs it. Sometimes the grown-ups need it. Sometimes even the post office needs to be reminded that winter is not only outside, it is alive, and for a moment it can fly.